And what Satoshi Nakamoto did, we're almost at October, so it's almost the 16th anniversary, 16th birthday of Bitcoin.
Right.
And it's an innovation.
We're fast approaching a significant moment in the history of Bitcoin, its 16th birthday. Can you believe that we're almost 16 years into this incredible journey that started when Satoshi Nakamoto, he published the famous white paper back in 2008. Bitcoin has come a long way since then, but as we stand on the brink of a new chapter, it feels like we're only just getting started. Right now, Bitcoin is on what could be described as a moon mission. And many of the key indicators point towards one thing. 70,000 shake is in sight, and it could happen sooner than you think. We're already seeing growing momentum, and with everything happening globally, Bitcoin is looking like the prime candidate to surge to new heights. So if you haven't already, tell a friend, because a lot of people are still missing out on what's shaping up to be one of the biggest financial stories of our time. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Just recently, Donald Trump made history by becoming the first U.S. president to make a Bitcoin transaction.
The first transaction by a president on the Bitcoin protocol. History.
They just made the first transaction in Bitcoin.
Yes, you heard that right. A former president using Bitcoin. This is a massive step forward for the cryptocurrency space. It was the first ever transaction by a sitting or former president on the Bitcoin protocol, marking a significant moment in the adoption of crypto by mainstream figures. Trump didn't stop there. Just days after making his first Bitcoin transaction, he doubled down on something he'd hinted at before: the idea of paying off the U.S. national debt using Bitcoin.
Who knows, maybe we'll pay off our $35 trillion, hand him a little crypto check, right? We'll hand him a little Bitcoin and wipe out our $35 trillion.
You might recall that during his presidency, Trump joked about handing over a Bitcoin check to pay down the $35 trillion debt. Well, it seems he's revisited that idea. Just days ago, Trump was quoted saying, "Maybe we'll pay off the $35 trillion with Bitcoin." Think about that for a second. The former president of the United States is seriously talking about Bitcoin as a potential solution to one of the country's biggest financial problems. In a recent interview, Trump elaborated saying, "I think crypto's got a great future. You look at the value of Bitcoin, where it came from and where it's going. I think it's a real possibility." He went on to suggest that Bitcoin's future could be bright enough to help alleviate the country's debt. This is coming from a man who, just a few years ago, was skeptical of the entire crypto space. What does that tell you about how much the world is changing? And it's not just Trump who's warming up to Bitcoin. Kamala Harris. You see, the current US Vice President has also made a massive pivot in her stance on cryptocurrency. Historically, both Biden and Harris had been critical of Bitcoin, with the administration taking a cautious approach. But recently, Harris shocked the nation by declaring her support for emerging technologies like AI, quantum computing, and, yes, blockchain. In a recent speech, Harris committed the U.S. to remain dominant in these key areas, signaling a huge shift in the administration's stance on cryptocurrency.
So I will recommit the nation to global leadership in the sectors that will define the next century. We will invest in biomanufacturing and aerospace, remain dominant in AI and quantum computing, blockchain and other emerging technologies.
She said, "We will remain dominant in AI, quantum computing, blockchain, and other emerging technologies. I will recommit the nation to global leadership in these sectors that will define the next century." This is a complete 180 from the previous administration's views, and it's an exciting moment for those in the crypto space. What's even more intriguing is that Mark Cuban, a well-known business mogul and crypto advocate, is reportedly working closely with the Harris administration. Cuban has appeared on TV multiple times, talking about how Harris is evolving and becoming more pro-crypto.
One of the things that really resonates with young men, and I have a 15-year-old son, is crypto. And she talks specifically about encouraging blockchain innovation and that was important to her and that she was going to be supportive of it. That's really important to young men. And I think as that message starts to get out more and more, it'll start to resonate with young men even more.
He's advising her on policies that could push the U.S. to the forefront of blockchain innovation. This is especially significant because Cuban is known for his keen business acumen and for being one of the early adopters of crypto. His involvement adds a lot of credibility to Harris's newfound pro-crypto stance. In fact, Cuban has been so impressed with Harris's shift that he recently revealed he would consider joining her administration if she were elected president. In an interview, Cuban was asked what role he would take in a Kamala Harris presidency. And he responded,
Could I ask you, Mark, whether you would entertain being a Treasury Secretary, Commerce Secretary in a Harris
Head of
administration?
the SEC. Head of the SEC. That's the job I would take.
That's right. Mark Cuban wants to take over the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, replacing Gary Gensler, who has been widely criticized for his stance on crypto regulation.
So is your argument that you're doing this to make crypto stronger?
We're again merit neutral. Crypto is only a small part of our capital markets. I mean, it's a little less than 1% of the world capital markets, but it's basically to instill trust and protect investors. Look at the leading lights in this field, in the crypto field just 2 years ago. A number of them are in jail right now. And I'm not just talking about SBF. I mean, a number of others. Yeah. And there's been tens of billions of dollars of losses and bankruptcies and so forth.
Cuban as CC chairman would be a breath of fresh air for the crypto community, and it would likely lead to more favorable regulations for blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies. But what about Bitcoin itself? Where is Bitcoin going from here? As always, it comes back to macro factors and the role of the Federal Reserve. Many analysts, including Pomp, have pointed out that Bitcoin is set to be a big winner in the current financial climate.
How much of this is now built in to the rest of the year? It keeps going up, goes down? What do you see?
Well, I think, if we look at that Fed interest rate cut, Bitcoin is the best performing asset so far. Gold and oil futures are kind of second. There's a new study that just came out from Lynn Alden and Sam Galligan that said Bitcoin is the most sensitive asset when it comes to global liquidity. And so 83% of the time, Bitcoin moves with global liquidity. It's more than S&P or any other asset. And so if you look at not just the interest rate cuts, now M2 money supply is expanding, and also we have cuts going on in China and elsewhere. And so I think that Bitcoin ends up being a big winner whenever we get kind of cheap money flooding into the system. And it feels like we just went through this big regime change, right? We were tightening, everyone was trying to kind of drain liquidity from the system. Now we're gonna go the other way. And so Bitcoin should be a big winner here.
The Federal Reserve's recent interest rate cuts have already had a massive impact, and Bitcoin has been one of the best performing assets since the cuts were announced. In fact, a recent study from Lynn Alden and Sam Galligan showed that Bitcoin is the most sensitive asset to global liquidity, meaning it responds more dramatically to shifts in money supply than even traditional assets like the S&P 500 or gold, with global liquidity increasing. Bitcoin is in a prime position to benefit, and this trend isn't isolated to the United States. We're seeing similar moves in China, where interest rates are also being cut, and liquidity is flowing back into the market. Virtual Bacon, a well-known analyst, recently predicted that the next We9 Fed meetings could result in 9 more rate cuts.
We are seeing the next 9 FOMC meetings having at least 9 rate cuts. And we're potentially seeing 1 double cut somewhere next year. So the rate cut cycles, like once they start, they keep going. They don't just randomly revert, and it goes kind of one direction only.
With the possibility of a Nashirinon double rate cut in 2025. What does that mean for Bitcoin? According to Virtual Bacon, this could lead to massive price increases.
What is your Bitcoin price prediction for 2025?
I guess I'll start with the prediction. I have always held this kind of relatively average number of around 200K for my personal portfolio. That wraps just around to 4 to 5 trillion-ish for Bitcoin market cap, total market cap just under 10 trillion. And I think that's fair. I think for sure we will reach 100K. as long as things line up and as long as, S&P recovers nicely, like 100K is a very easy number at this point.
With Bitcoin potentially reaching $200,000 by the end of 2025. And it doesn't stop there. According to Bacon, once Bitcoin breaks through the $70,000 mark, it will act as a launch pad for even bigger moves. Once we hit that level, we could see Bitcoin climb to 100,000, and after that, it's anyone's guess. Could we see why 125s on 200,000? The possibilities are endless once Bitcoin hits that critical 70K threshold. But let's not forget the Federal Reserve's role in all of this. Historically, when the Fed cuts rates and increases liquidity, Bitcoin's price skyrockets. We've seen it happen before, and with the current financial climate, it looks like we're heading into another period of rapid growth for Bitcoin. The recent Fed rate cuts are expected to continue into 2025 and potentially even 2026, creating a perfect storm for Bitcoin to reach new all-time highs. Virtual Bacon isn't the only one with a bullish outlook. Pomp, another respected analyst, has also been extremely optimistic about Bitcoin's future, pointing to the Fed's policies as a key driver of growth. He believes that as global liquidity increases, Bitcoin will be one of the biggest beneficiaries, and we could see some dramatic price movements in the coming months and years. What does this mean for Bitcoin investors? Simply put, it's time to pay attention. If Bitcoin reclaims 70,000, we could be entering a new phase of the bull cycle, and the one that could take Bitcoin to 100,000, 200,000, or beyond. The signs are there, and the stage is set for a massive breakout. Now let's talk a bit about the broader crypto landscape. With her Bitcoin ETFs gaining traction and institutional interest continuing to grow, we're seeing more and more financial vehicles are being built around Bitcoin, whether it's futures, options, ETFs, or even P2P markets. Bitcoin is becoming increasingly integrated into the global financial system. This kind of adoption is crucial for Bitcoin's long-term success, and it's a trend that's only going to accelerate as more people and institutions come to see Bitcoin's true value. But here's the thing, Bitcoin isn't just an asset, it's a movement, a shift towards decentralized finance and away from the traditional fiat system that's been built on debt and inflation. As more people wake up to the reality of in-currency debasement and the flaws in the current financial system, Bitcoin becomes an even more attractive option. We're living in a world where central banks are printing money at an unprecedented rate, and the global debt crisis is spiraling out of control. As Virtual Bacon pointed out, global liquidity is one of the biggest drivers of Bitcoin's price. And as the Fed and other central banks continue to cut rates and flood the market with cheap money, Bitcoin is poised to soar. What we're witnessing right now is the beginning of a new financial era, the one where Bitcoin and decentralized assets play a central role in the global economy. Whether it's Trump, Harris, or Cuban, the on-mainstream acceptance of Bitcoin is growing, and we're likely to see even more institutional adoption in the near future. Thanks for watching. If you found value in today's video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. Drop a comment below with your thoughts or any questions, and I'll make sure to respond. And hey, if you know someone who would benefit from this, share it with them. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you're the first to know when new videos go live. Until next time, keep pushing forward and take charge of your success. I'll see you in the next one.